Welcome back to Yahoo Finance, live from the Labor Department here in a chilly nation's capital. I'm Jennifer Schonberger. That jobs report coming in much stronger than expected this morning. And for more insight on that, I want to welcome to the program outgoing Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su. Secretary Su, always great to see you.
For me too.
A strong jobs report this morning across the board. Payrolls, the unemployment rate dropping to 4.1%. Yet, more than 1.6 million Americans have been looking for work for at least 6 months. That number up 50% since 2022. So how do you juxtapose what we're seeing, what appears to be strength on the surface, but then people, especially in white-collar jobs, having difficulty or a long time before they can find new positions?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so the first part of your question, right, exactly right. These numbers demonstrate continued, really steady, stable job growth. This is the only president that has had positive job growth every single month of his presidency. And that doesn't happen by accident, especially when you look at where we were in 2021. And so we now have a total of 16.7 million jobs created under this administration, broad-based, right, across many, many industries. The one statistic you're talking about is that it is taking people longer to find jobs, but when you look at labor force participation, people aren't giving up. That means there are jobs to be had, and people are, they're staying in the labor market to find them, and because real wages are also up. Once they get them, they have a little bit more breathing room when they go to work. And so these are all very much fundamental to the way we envisioned what a strong economy centered on workers should look like.
Why do you think it is taking so long for many of these people, especially in white-collar jobs, to find those positions?
We don't have data about that specifically, but I will say that some of it is in an economy in which workers have been doing well, tight labor market, right? More jobs, higher wages. Workers have had more choices, and so sometimes people have held out for better jobs that better connect with their desires, their interests, what they want to do. And so there could be lots of reasons for that, but the overall picture of the economy remains one in which people come into the labor market exceeding the pre-pandemic labor force participation, right? So it's not just that people came back. It's not just that we've recovered. It's that we've built up to a stronger economy than we've ever seen that we're going to pass along to the next administration.
Speaking of the next administration, President-elect Donald Trump said in a press conference this week that, quote, he's inheriting a difficult situation from the outgoing administration and that inflation is continuing to rage and interest rates are still far too high. Just on my way to the Labor Department this morning, I was talking to my Uber driver and he was complaining bitterly about the cost of living, the cost of groceries. Your response?
So there's a lot to be said there. Let me unpack it a little bit. First, that sounds like a well-known pattern of someone who tries to lower expectations for what he will have to deliver and find someone else to blame. The numbers don't lie, right? And the numbers across this economy demonstrate real strength. And we've talked about this here before. I've traveled around the country to see working people walking into jobs that did not exist 4 years ago. But it is true that our work was not finished, and the need to continue on this path is going to require real leadership. And the kind of vision where we can't just care about the number of jobs, though that's important. We have to care about the kinds of jobs. Right? We have to care that people can make a decent living. I mean, that driver you're talking about is part of a population of working people who often have to piece together a life because the job that they have doesn't pay them enough to survive. That's a real problem. And so we've focused on making sure that real wages are up, on supporting unionized workers, and on enforcing the law for those who need the Department of Labor to be strong so that they get a just day's pay. All of those are part of a bigger picture of work that remains.
We know that the president-elect has promised tariffs. We don't know to what extent we will see tariffs and that those will be implemented. But generally speaking, what's your sense of what impact that could have on the job market?
Look, he promised that he would bring down prices on day one, and now he said it's hard to do. He's talked about tariffs, and by most accounts, the kinds of things that he's blustered about are not going to be good either for the economy or for prices. So it remains to be seen. I think what this administration has demonstrated, though, is that a strong economic recovery and continued economic growth is possible with the right investments in industry, with the right commitment to workers. Like, we cannot build an economy off the backs of working people without making sure that workers also do well. And through the work that we've done, we have now 400,000 workers in unions who were not in unions 4 years ago. We have millions of workers with union contracts that are going to last them 4 years or 6 years, and have lifted up wages in not just for them, but for their entire industries. And if the investments that we started continue, there will be continued job growth.
How are you working with the incoming administration and the potential next labor secretary? What is your advice?
Well, this president has also been clear from the beginning that we would have a peaceful transfer of power. And so my team has been working with the transition team to make sure that they have what they need. They've been on site here in the office. And we know that a strong Department of Labor is essential to America, to vulnerable workers who shouldn't have to come home with an injury, right, losing their limbs or their lungs or even their lives on the job. Nobody should have to do that. And we also know through our enforcement work, under this administration, fatalities are now at the lowest rate that they've been since 2017. Injuries on the job are down. It demonstrates that when you enforce the law and send a clear message to employers who might try to cut corners or try to catch a break by breaking the law, that's not going to happen. That really does make a difference.
The World Economic Forum is out with a brand new report this week on the future of jobs. They estimate that by the year 2030, while 170 million jobs will be created, 92 million are projected to be displaced by technology and AI. Is the U.S. prepared for the change in skill sets required by employers and this evolution? And how will that impact the job market?
So one important point about those kinds of predictions is that none of that is inevitable, right? None of that happens just through natural forces. There are choices that we make, policy choices, whether we ask the right questions, whether we put on the right guardrails, and whether we prioritize workers. I've never met a worker who said, I don't want something that can come to the workplace to help me do my job better or help keep me safer, right? But there is a way in which we can think about technology and ask the question, how can technology actually benefit workers? How can it make life better for working people? How can it make jobs, jobs safer, workers more secure? And so those choices are going to determine exactly what those outcomes are. And yes, we've demonstrated that over the last 4 years too. When you create good jobs and when you connect people to those opportunities, including people from communities who've been left out in the past when there was opportunity, that the American people want to work and they have the talent and the skill and the hunger to do so. And the Department of Labor's investments in workforce training programs are really key to that as well.
You said this week, looking back 4 years and to where we are now, that the unemployment insurance system isn't ready for the next economic crisis. Why is that, and what else needs to be done?
So COVID really revealed just how fragile that system was, right? If you recall, claims for unemployment spiked some 3,000% in a single week at the height of COVID. And the unemployment insurance system is supposed to be able to deliver benefits to people in times of crisis. And what we found was that system, due to decades of underinvestment, was just not up for that challenge. And so what happened was, it had to be, basically, I've likened it to, you're having to repair a leaky roof in the middle of a storm. You just can't do that. So now that the economy has been strong, we've committed to that task of repairing it, of making sure that it works in the next crisis. But again, decades of disinvestment and underinvestment don't get reversed overnight. But we've made significant progress in partnership with states to do everything from modernized technology to enhance fraud detection methods to provide a federal partner to the states to do this work. And so that's also the work that we're proud of having accomplished, but the work is not finished, and it needs additional monetary investments, but it also needs the additional work and the additional partnership and focus of the Department of Labor to make sure that when the next crisis hits, it's ready.
Secretary C, I want to thank you so much for your insight today and for all of your insight over these past years as acting labor secretary here in the Biden administration. We've so appreciated it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you.
And best of luck to you and your family. I know you're from LA with all the wildfires.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's acting labor secretary Julie Su.